There are 15 ruined churches in the City of London, and I'm on a mission to find them all. Some hide in courtyards, some stand in the open, and others sit unnoticed down narrow lanes, each one a fragment of a much larger story. A city shaped by fire, war, demolition and survival. This is the journey through all 15. First up is St Alphege, London Wall. Beside the Roman wall near the Museum of London. St Alphege grew up against the Roman wall itself, giving it one of the oldest backdrops in the city. The earliest church here used the wall as its entire north side, so the parish literally grew out of the old Roman frontier. It survived the Great Fire of 1666, but fell into decline and was partly demolished in the 1700s. What remains today are medieval arches set against Roman stonework. It's a rare layering of London's past, a place where you can stand in one spot and see nearly 2,000 years of history all pressed together. Next on the list is St Augustine, Watling Street, just south of St Paul's Cathedral. St Augustine stood in the shadow of St Paul's, serving craftsmen and traders along Watling Street. Christopher Wren rebuilt it after the Great Fire with a spire inspired by Italian campanile, tall, elegant bell towers that he admired on the continent. The Blitz destroyed everything except the tower, which now houses the St Paul's Cathedral Choir School. Its bells still ringing out across the city. The third stop is All Hallows Staining, in a courtyard off Mark Lane. Its name Staining comes from the old Saxon word for stone, distinguishing it from all other All Hallows churches in the city, which were timber built. The medieval tower dates from around 1320 and survived the Great Fire, only for the rest of the church to collapse a few years later, when its foundations gave way after centuries of burials. A new church was built but later dismantled in the 19th century, leaving just this lone tower. And there's a remarkable Tudor thread woven into its story. While imprisoned in the Tower of London, Princess Elizabeth, the future Elizabeth I, said the bells were like music to her ears, and after her release she gifted the church a set of silk bell ropes. One of the bells from that period still survives to this day. Coming in fourth is St Alban, Wood Street, between modern buildings on Wood Street. Dedicated to Britain's first martyr, St Albans has Saxon origins and stood here long before the Normans arrived. Wren rebuilt it after the fire with a tall, slender tower. The Blitz destroyed the body of the church, leaving the tower standing alone between modern buildings. Number 5 takes us to St Anne's, Blackfriars. And to reach this ruin you have to come through a narrow alleyway into the old Blackfriars precinct. This church stood within the Dominican Blackfriars Monastery, a powerful monastic community dissolved under Henry VIII. The parish church that replaced it was destroyed in the fire and never rebuilt, and this surviving churchyard sits on a raised platform hidden above street level. Number 6, we arrive at St Mary Aldermanbury near Guildhall, now a garden of foundations. A medieval church built by Christopher Wren, St Mary Aldermanbury was destroyed by the Blitz. In the 1960s, its surviving stones were carefully numbered, dismantled and shipped across the Atlantic to Westminster College in Fulton, Missouri, the site of Churchill's famous Iron Curtain speech. There, the church was rebuilt stone by stone as part of the National Churchill Museum, making it one of the only Wren churches ever relocated to another continent. There's also a memorial to Henry Condell and John Hemmings, Shakespeare's colleagues, who compiled the first folio. 7th on our route is St Mary Staining, a tiny churchyard off Oak Lane. This tiny parish takes its name not from stained glass, but from the Staines family, medieval landholders from Staines. The church was destroyed in the Great Fire and never rebuilt. A single ancient tree grows here, said to predate the fire itself. Number 8 brings us to Christchurch Greyfriars, opposite St Paul's besides Newgate Street. Christchurch Greyfriars began as the great church of a Franciscan friary founded in the 1200s, a vast complex that once dominated medieval London. It became the burial place of queens, including Isabella, the she-wolf of France. After the dissolution, it became a parish church, only to be destroyed by the Great Fire and rebuilt by Sir Christopher Wren. Then in 1940, the Blitz gutted it again, and here it stands. a remnant of its former glory. Ninth on the list is St Pancras Soper Lane. Once off Cheapside, now vanished into modern streets, St Pancras was one of the city's oldest parishes, possibly pre-conquest, tucked into the tight medieval street of Cheapside. The Great Fire razed it completely, and unlike many others, it was never rebuilt. Today, only the street name hints at a church that stood here for nearly 1,000 years. Unfortunately, this little courtyard is all that's left to tell its story. Next is St John Zachary, which was one of the city's oldest parishes, first recorded in 1188, though its origins may reach back to the 10th century. The name is unusual. Some say it means St John, son of Zachary, John the Baptist, while the 12th century deed claims the church was given to a monk named Zachary and the name stuck. It stood on the north side of Gresham Street, close to the workshop of the Goldsmiths Company, who were deeply tied to this parish. One of its most notable vicars was William Bingham, appointed in 1424, the man who founded England's first teacher training college. Today, the site is a small garden that sits alongside the Goldsmiths Hall. Number 11 takes us to St Peter Cheap. On Cheapside, now a small garden. Named for the great market street of Cheap, St Peter Cheap was a lively medieval parish, rebuilt by Christopher Wren after the fire. It survived until the early 1900s, when Victorian parish mergers led to its demolition. The church became a small garden, and the footprint is still visible if you know where to look. 12th on the journey is St Dunstan in the east. Tucked between Tower Hill and Monument, hidden just off the busy streets, the first church here was built around 1100, serving a dense medieval population inside the old city walls. It grew over the centuries. A new south aisle was added in 1391, and repairs in the 1600s cost more than £2,400, a huge sum at that time. The Great Fire of 1666 didn't destroy it outright, but it left the building badly damaged. And instead of starting again, the parish patched it up, and later St Christopher Wren added a striking Gothic steeple. A tall, delicate spire supported by flying buttresses, still one of the most distinctive in the city. For nearly 3 centuries the church stood here, weathering London's changes until the Blitz of the Second World War in 1941 gutted the building, leaving only the tower, the steeple and fragments of the wall standing. This time the parish didn't rebuild, instead the ruins were left open to the sky. St Olaf's Jewry. The name comes from 2 sources. St Olaf, the 11th century Norwegian king, and Old Jewry, the street marking London's medieval Jewish quarter, home to a thriving community until their expulsion in 1290. The earliest references to the church date from around 1130, but excavations have revealed foundations of a Saxon predecessor, built from Kentish ragstone and Roman brick. It was mostly destroyed in the fire of 1666. 14th on the list is St Martin Ogar. The name Ogar comes from a real medieval figure, either Ogarius the Dane or Ogar the Deacon, both recorded as early donors who gave the church to St Paul's Cathedral in the 12th century. It's one of the few city churches named after a person rather than a place or a trade. The church was partly destroyed in the Great Fire, but its tower survived and later became a place of worship for French Huguenots fleeing persecution. Absorbed into commercial buildings over time, the outline of the tower can still be traced if you look closely. And last but not least is St Mary, Somerset. First recorded in the 12th century, one of many medieval London churches dedicated to the Virgin Mary. Its name is a little mystery. Some link it to Ralph de Somery, a landowner who was mentioned in early records, while others trace it to Somers Hythe, a small Thameside landing that once sat much closer to the church than the modern riverbank. Today, the tower stands alone by the Riverside Road, a single elegant fragment of a parish that once looked out over the old Thames. 15 ruins scattered across the square mile, some hidden, some standing proudly in the open, all of them carrying the memory of a city that has burned, rebuilt, adapted and endured. These fragments aren't just leftovers of the past, they're reminders of the people who lived, prayed and rebuilt London again and again. Thank you so much for watching The Pew Review. See you on the next one.